Okay, so here we go. All right, Ron Henry Wells. First of all, thank you for doing this, dude.
Hey, thank you for asking me.
Appreciate you doing it, taking the time out. And it's a busy weekend. The East Coast is flooding, and it's Armageddon. Cats and dogs living together.
As long as my wife's okay, I'm good.
Right. Everything's fine at home, right?
Yeah, I've talked to most of my friends, my family, everybody that I know of that I was worried about is okay. It
Good.
sucks that there are people that are fucked, but everybody that I know of is okay.
Right. Well, let's get started, man. I ask everybody generally the same first question is because I have a very definitive moment in my life that affected me with tattooing, and some people have that and some people don't have that. What was like your first tattoo experience, like seeing a tattoo or wanting a tattoo or?
I wish I had so many great stories on this one, but to be honest, like old story. I mean, like my older cousins all had, for some reason, they all went together to get panther tattoos. The climbing panther.
Mm-hmm.
It was awesome. I used to be psyched on those, but I didn't really. I was 4 years old. I mean, it's not that much I can think about it,
Right.
They would just make them go like "Rah," and try to scare me down the stairs.
Perfect.
But to be honest, my first like holy shit tattoo moment was seeing that goddamn Leo Zulueta Borneo Tribal Scorpio,
Right.
which is one of my all-time favorite designs.
Fucking amazing design.
I've never gotten a tattoo on anybody.
Are you serious?
And I want to so bad. It is one of my favorite tattoo designs ever.
Oh, dude.
And in the 90s, everybody, all the hardcore kids were just wrapping tribal around everything and putting it all over themselves.
Right.
And to me, that stuff just looked so awesome against the skin. Just big, heavy black shapes.
Right.
And so that's where my unabashed love for tribal comes in. I mean, it's kind of a shame that we didn't take it the European way, where they just kind of kept running with the ball out there and made
Right.
something special out of it, and it turned into Hummer bumper stickers here.
Yeah, totally.
Like that's kind of a bummer.
Right.
But even on the military guys I tattooed, when they just ask you to draw a big tribal arm, the whole sleeve. I love that shit.
Yeah.
It just looks so heavy. Like,
Yeah.
to me, that it just looked heavy and menacing, and being a young hardcore kid and seeing all these big, giant, scary dudes coming in.
That'll happen again.
It's
probably.
okay. Seeing these big dudes during these bands that were pretty, intimidating to even watch for a young dude. Just, seeing Cro-Mags, what I mean?
Right.
Like, you're already intimidated, and these giant shapes all over these guys. It was like, what the fuck am I looking at?
Right.
And that was my big holy shit moment.
Harley had that
tattoo.
crazy fucking demon thing in his chest and
I
shit.
remember seeing Paul Bearer walking through from Sheer Terror,
Mhm.
walking
Oh, yeah.
through a club after he had just gotten the word "suffer" tattooed on the back of his head, and I was like, how am I in the same room with this? Like, I don't understand. Is that a thing? Jesus Christ! Like, it was every day was like seeing that stuff, and then friends of mine were like would see me doodling, and a couple of friends passed on those modern primitives and tattoo time books, where it's like Ed and Leo doing these giant, crazy tribal things, and I was hooked.
What time was this? What year? What?
Man, I'd say I was in high school, but I'd say like 89, 90.
How old are you?
I'm 39 now.
39. Okay.
I started tattooing late, but that was the holy shit moment, and I drew that shit forever. But I mean, I wish I had like a great like story where some guy took me under his wing at 18 years old, but I don't. I was a fucking vandal. That was my thing. I was a graffiti writer for 20 years, and so I would travel to do graffiti, and in the back of my mind was this tattoo stuff that I always wanted to do, and I started getting tattoos from people. I always try to like kind of poke my way in there a little bit to see, talk to somebody if an apprenticeship is possible or something,
Right.
And I hear no, and I wasn't smart enough at that point to be like, wow, hey, you just ask him again, ask him again, ask him again.
Right.
And I'd hear back once in a while from somebody be like, hey, yeah, maybe if you still wanted to do it, I already moved,
Right.
I should have just turned around and moved right the fuck back and did it. But it took forever to get my apprenticeship. And I didn't want to do out of the house tattoos. I didn't want to do that shit.
Right.
I had enough sense in my head to be like, tattoo parties sound like an AIDS rodeo. Like, it just sounds dangerous. Like, I didn't want to deal with that. I remember watching people get tattooed at people's houses and just being like, I don't trust him, and I don't trust her, and why? and that's why I don't have tribal suns on my shoulder blades, because that's all these guys did.
Right, of course. The Rollins son, too. Yeah, fuck
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Can't get enough of the Rollins son.
yeah, the Rollins Sun and the Red Hot Chili Peppers armband.
Oh, dude.
And
Trust
the,
me. Yeah, I know all about that one.
And for some reason, a gecko on the foot. I don't know why, but dudes were getting lizards on their feet. I don't know why.
You know what? Yes. I forgot all about that.
Yeah, that
I
was the
forgot
thing.
about the fucking Nate Sponsler, one of the dudes I started. I had been tattooing before, and we went to high school together. He got a fucking gecko on his foot, like a lizard on his foot, I think from Pote. And, yeah, I think it was from Pote, and like way back, like 90 or something like that. It was,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I saw it.
Fuck,
For
I
some
forgot.
reason, that was a big thing. I had 7 friends
So
that had
untough tattoo.
lizards and geckos on their feet. What the hell are you guys doing?
I mean,
that.
the Leo tribal lizards were fucking cool.
That was different.
That shit was cool.
They were like big and heavy. I even like that. I wish more people got that goddamn Rollins snake on his leg, where it's just a big black silhouetted snake. That thing's dope looking.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, I mean the weight of black and tattoos, like heavy black things like that, the dynamic of what's there and not there, you know, the shape that's created by it is so fucking impactful and so important.
Huge thing.
And I think it's so fucking cool. I personally love fucking tribal tattoos.
Absolutely.
I absolutely love tribal tattoos. I think people think I'm being a smartass when I say I do like my customers, because
No.
I'm known for a traditional guy, right? And for
Yeah.
me to be like, I love tribal tattoos, they're all, oh yeah, totally, dude, blah,
'cause
blah.
it
And they
went
think I'm
through
fucking
that-
off, but I'm not fucking off. I'm totally
It
serious.
went through that thing where it became like the tramp stamp, where it was like, this is the shunned tattoo,
Right,
because it represented a specific time period.
right.
Because that's when it blew
exactly.
up. And we're Americans here, we throw things away after we're done with them. We don't
Right.
keep them for very long. A lot of us don't.
There are people, I think, now that are doing incredible tribal shit that is insane to this day.
Absolutely.
Have you seen that chick Rocks?
Yeah.
Dude, what the fuck, man?
I-
Shit is insane.
I thought it was, I didn't think anybody was paying attention to it anymore.
Right.
And then I came across the first time I ever was aware of Thomas Hooper.
Right.
I saw this, did you ever see that giant tribal panther he did on that guy?
No.
Jesus, it was like a regular panther. He just turned it into a tribal panther, kind of like, not in the same way, but kind of like how Drag Irons did that Sick of All Dragon.
Uh-huh.
It's a giant panther, and it's on this guy's whole back. It's crawling down like a Tibetan panther, kind of, but like a tribal. And then the tail comes around and wraps around the guy's nipple. It's so fucking heavy, and it looks like if he was a superhero, he would take his shirt off, and that thing would come alive and slaughter millions.
Right.
And it's still heavy, and I was just like excited about it again. I was like, yeah, tribal. I remember that shit. Yes.
Right.
And people called the things black work back then, you know.
Right.
And I like that because it is, it's black work.
Yeah, I mean, it was super punk rock at the time. You know, it was super punk rock, and I think it just got, yeah, like you said, it just got a bad rap.
What kind of co-op
With the
did it?
jock armbands and the, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the chicks can't get a lower back tattoo anymore because it's now considered a tramp stamp.
I want Leo to tattoo that goddamn thing on me. Like, I want to go out and get tattooed by him, and I'm gonna make a trip out at the same time. I want to get tattooed by Zuck too. So I'm thinking, since they're close together, I want to go get.
Right. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, and I just want to have that design because it has never left my like memory. Like never
No, it's
left it.
such a good design, dude.
It's one of my out of
The other one I love too is, I don't even know what it is, but the throat one.
Oh, the weird thing that goes like
Yeah,
this.
it looks like a fucking harp.
almost
yeah.
like a fleur-de-lis heart.
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
with yeah, that thing's awesome.
Yeah, Loretta has it or whatever it has on her throat. Yeah, yeah. It looks
Yeah,
so
it's,
fucking
it's
cool.
so cool.
So when did you actually end up getting an apprenticeship? And where and who with who?
Well, I traveled around a bit because I was never able to afford to go on vacation, so I would just move places and see things around the area. And knocking around, I'd ask this and ask that, and it never worked. And I ended up in Savannah, Georgia. And I had done like I lived in Indiana, so I had done the Midwest. I lived in Denver, I did the Southwest, I lived in Oregon, I did the Northwest, and I'm from the Northeast, so I never did the Southeast. So I figured Savannah has old buildings. Excuse me. Savannah has these old buildings, and I like that shit. I like historic downtowns, and it seemed like it's right on the water. Another thing I really like, so fucking try that. I had some friends there that knew of somebody who was leaving a tattoo shop after his apprenticeship was done. Turned out to be Adam Hathaway was leaving.
Oh, okay.
And Adam actually is from Boston, so he actually knew of me from graffiti days. But I moved down there on the off chance because the people that I knew were like, yeah, we'll try to get you in with this guy. I moved down there on the off chance that something might happen. at this point in time, I really wanted to make it work, so I was willing to go anywhere if I heard something. And I went down there. Turned out that another person was already in line for the next apprenticeship spot.
Right.
And that's awesome because he's a great guy and I love him too. Andrew Johnson Lally, he's a great tattooer. He's awesome. And I never would have wanted to stand in his way. But I did talk to the guy, and he was kind of aloof, didn't really seem to care. And that's fine. No big deal. But I was stuck there. And I really liked the guys at that shop. I made friends with them. This guy, Ricky McGee.
Ricky McGee, what a fucking name.
Well, the two guys that apprenticed me are Ricky McGee and Clay McKay. Right? Like, I don't know how they teamed up like that.
How could they not? It's obviously
but they worked together in that same shop.
Yeah, there's definitely destined with those names.
And Katie Sellegren also worked there at that time.
Oh, okay.
Ricky and I became friends through graffiti because he was a writer at that point in time. And he'd come out to a gallery showing of mine, and we talked a little bit, and I'd asked him about an apprenticeship, and kind of found out through, other channels that some people were fixing to open a shop. And these guys were fixing to kind of move away to go to that shop. And I kind of jumped on board immediately. There was a piercing shop, and they were going to open a shop that was piercing and tattooing.
Uh-huh.
And so I just jumped on board and worked in the piercing shop selling nose rings and water pipes to art school kids.
Right.
That's what I did, bondage pants to shitheads.
But you were in the door.
I was waiting for the shop to open so that I could go over there and work and be the apprentice and clean counters, whatever. And when it finally opened, I went over there, and the people that owned it there was not a lot of thinking ahead. There was a lot of people. I mean, they really wanted it to be this fancy, awesome place. And I know that that's when you want to open a shop, you really want to put your best foot forward, and I understand that. But the place that they had put it was really hard to get to. And it was confusing to get to. Even though you could see it, it was still really hard to get to. And there was a shop in front of it that had a parking lot that you could just drive into. Then they hadn't been there for a long time. You kind of had to circumvent a road, drive through a parking lot, come around the back or something weird. And it took forever to open, and there was not a lot of stuff done to make that place more well known for other people. So these guys were starving for work. So even though I was theoretically going to be the apprentice, there was nothing to learn at that point in time.
Nobody was doing any tattoos.
No, there was not even any tubes to wash. There's no tubes to wash. There's no nothing to do. And I really wanted to learn stuff, but I mean, I just kind of got fed up, and I ended up moving back to Massachusetts. Weirdly enough, one of the guys that was in the shop that I eventually did make it into started at that shop as an apprentice. He came in after me and just worked through it. It picked up a little bit business-wise for those guys. But that shop dissolved a year or two later. And then the guy, Ricky, opened his own shop. And I heard about it, and I was like, well, shit. I want to go up and see your shop. And a friend of mine worked at a different shop in town. I was initially kind of supposed to have an apprenticeship there. I went, and the dude didn't even really talk to me, so I didn't know what was going on. Walked over to Ricky's shop just to see it, just to say, hey, man, I want to see your shop. And within 5 minutes of being there, we already had a conversation going on. It was way further than I'd gotten with anybody else.
Right.
He was the original guy in Savannah that I asked. You know what I mean? He was the guy I wanted to learn from. I really respected him as an artist. I respected him as a friend. I wanted to learn from somebody I could have a conversation with, look him in the goddamn eye, and trust what he was saying.
Right.
I'm not like an 18-year-old kid. I don't just want to come into tattooing so I can look cool.
Right.
At this point in time, this is a career decision. I have to make it work.
Right.
And so I want to have somebody who has years of experience under their belt. And I knew Clay was already there. Clay had been tattooing for 13, 14 years. Ricky had been tattooing for 8 or 9 or something. So it's a good combined amount of experience. And they came in through different routes, so they had a lot of, that whole, we made these mistakes, so you don't have to make them type of thing. And that's where I learned. I learned at Anonymous Tattoo in Savannah, Georgia, under Ricky McGee and Clay McKay, and a lot of help from Zach Sparrow, who was also working there. And Zach's an amazing tattooer. He didn't have any responsibility to do that. We became friends, and I learned a lot from him, too. He was 3 or 4 years in, I think, when I started there. So he was still learning, and what he was learning, he was kind of passed off a little bit here and there to me, and I learned from that, we were both geeking out on the same photographs and tattoos from people we liked and all that kind of stuff, you know. And it was a really good apprenticeship. It wasn't horror stories. They didn't make me clean cars and eat shit, you know. They
Right.
were fucking intelligent dudes and told me to do shit. If I fucked up, they told me I fucked up, and if I did good, they told me I did good.
Right.
You know, I was lucky enough to get paid for being counter worker.
Right.
So I try to be there on days off and stay early, or show up early and stay late. And when it was quiet, because there's 5 people in Savannah, it gets busy sometimes, but there's a lot of downtime. There's a lot of downtime when things are clean. To sit over and watch them tattoo, ask questions, and they fountains of knowledge. And I honestly owe my entire career to those guys. Like, not a day goes by when I'm doing tattoos and I'm not thinking in my head, like, their voices in my head telling me what I should and shouldn't be doing about this tattoo. You know, even more so now that I'm not there anymore.
Right.
When I'm not there, I hear them more. They become like these, like, crazy, like, I have split personalities now. I can hear them going, like, don't do this, do that, don't catch yourself out this way, make sure you're doing this. And I couldn't ask for, like, better moral tattoo compasses than those guys.
Right, nice.
You know, it was a little weird at first because Ricky and Clay tattoo in such different ways. So it took me a little while to figure out, if you're teaching me this thing this way, and you're teaching me this thing this way, how do I do something and not offend whoever's showing me whatever? You know what I mean? And eventually I was just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna take from each person what naturally seems to work for me.
Right.
You know?
Wise.
I still do all my setups like Ricky. I still do all my prep. I still do a lot of my research and drawing like Ricky. I do a lot of I run my machines and the way I tattoo is a lot closer to Clay. You know, Ricky's machines run, I think, a little slower, and Clay's machines run like a bat out of hell, and that's because he draws fast normally, so it makes sense to run your machines fast. You can zip through.
Right.
And it's the same thing. I draw fast, so it worked for me, and it didn't work for me at first. I remember them turning the fucking volume up on my power supply when I'm like, zip, go faster. Fuck. I was nervous, but it worked, man. It was like they were able to pay attention to my strengths and weaknesses and see what I needed before I even knew.
Right.
And
Well, going too slow, you get the slow wobbles.
yeah,
You know what I
absolutely,
mean? You go,
absolutely.
Oh, yeah, and you're too fixated on where the needle is in the skin and not where the needle needs to be.
Absolutely. And I
when
think
you tattoo fast, when you're outlining fast, your eye is tracking where the needle needs to go instead of where you are, and that's the greatest way to make a straight line.
absolutely, I agree.
It's like
100%.
riding a motorcycle. You never look where you are. You want to look where you want to be.
And those guys are all technical lining monsters, like straight pin lines across the craziest places in your body, no blowouts. Just Zach is like a technically perfect tattooer, and you got a lot of that from Clay and Ricky. And I mean, like, I just spent my entire life trying to live up to that. It was just like one big sweaty, crazy, Tums-filled day after another. Just going home, having ulcers, going like, how did I let that walk out of the shop? But I mean, wanting to impress them on a daily basis is what made me better.
Right.
You know, I never want to let them down, ever.
Sure.
And I mean, they are the most important things in my life as far as tattooing. Like, I feel like I have to make them proud every day.
So now you're not in Savannah.
I left.
How did the exodus of Savannah go?
I always wanted to go back to New England. That's where I'm from. I've spent a lot of time outside of New England. I just want to live there from now on. If I'm going to do traveling, I want to travel outside of New England and come back to it. You know, that's my base of operations. A lot of my family is there. I grew up there. My wife's family is there. She gets homesick pretty easy too. And they're great people to have around us. And if we do decide to have kids, we want to be around family again.
Sure. Yeah, you definitely need
And I
to.
want to raise them in the same schools that I was in. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be the alien dad in the area that's, I don't know, I just want to make sure that it all works out really well. And so my wife was in a situation where her job was kind of sucking in the South. And so she was like, I have to look for a job. So I was like, if you're going to look for a new job, there's nothing here, so let's look back home. I don't want to go anywhere else but back home.
Right.
I wanted to stay for at least 3 years in the shop to make sure I've like paid them some money out of it. You know what I mean? Like made them
Right.
some sort of money and paid some sort of dues there.
Right.
But after that, I was like, well, I gotta get back home at this point in time. So she finally got a job at home, and we moved back to Massachusetts. And where I live, there's not really any shops. I was kind of excited about doing some traveling, because that's what I've been doing. I didn't want to open up on anybody. You know, I didn't want. I'm not living near Boston. I'm an hour in Central Mass, and there's not really anything there. There's a bunch of shops, but in the town that I live in, somebody said that there was a biker shop, and I got excited, and I was like, yeah, I want to work in a biker shop. Do fucking sick, like the Trim Reaper. Like, I want to do that shit, yeah. When I went by, there was like kids in affliction shirts doing like endos and their fucking rice rockets. And I was like, oh, biker shop, that's what you mean. I don't want to work there. And then there's an insane clown posse shop.
No fucking way.
Yeah, dude, it doesn't
There's
say
a
it.
Juggalo shop?
But there's like stickers in the windows, and I always see Juggalos hanging out front. I'm like,
no fucking way.
I'm not gonna work in a shop. It smells like rape sweat and fucking trailer failure.
Hey, Cody. There's a Juggalo shop, tattoo shop in the town he lives in, dude. Ah, it's awesome, dude. We're going.
It's terrible. It just is
The
bad.
Juggalos we have a soft spot at our shop for Juggalos.
Yeah?
Not really, but yeah, really.
I've tattooed a lot of them.
Nick is in love with the idea of Juggalos. I think if he had to hang out with him for more than 5 minutes, he'd be very disappointed. But from afar, he romanticizes the Juggalo.
On TV, it's funny. In real life, it's a bit sad.
Right.
But I mean, hey, people have a thing that they go to when they need a thing to go to. So
Yeah, ask for every saddle, sir.
Yeah.
I want to back up on one thing here real quick, because me and Henning were talking about something earlier tonight, and I don't believe it was on camera. It may or may not have been, but it may or not have been. But we're talking about apprenticeships, and we're talking about how people nowadays treat apprentices like fucking slaves and just treat them like shit. And we all know how. And Henning said, we all know how that ends. At first, no, this is what he said. At first, they're licking your feet, and at the end, all they have is spit.
Yeah.
And I thought it was I was thinking about it when I was driving over here and the thing, and to hear you say that you were treated the way you were treated awesome, and your apprenticeship was awesome, and the guys treated you well, and here you are speaking so fondly of these people and how much you respect them and whatever, I think is a testament to what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah,
it's a perfect example of it.
I fucked up times too, you know. I made mistakes, and it's
Of
not like
course
they
you did, you're a human
didn't.
being.
And they didn't. It's not like they didn't call me out on it. You know what I mean? Like I got shit. I got in trouble when I did something wrong. But you learn to not do those things wrong.
Right.
And it's just like a good parent. Like the further I am away from that shop, the more I see those points of views are way smarter than they were.
Right.
You know, when you're at the brunt of it, you just feel like shit. You let somebody down you didn't want to let down.
Right.
You feel fucked up, and you're gonna be a Boy Scout, and you're like, God damn it! Like, I wasn't thinking. I'm a shithead. And then later on, you have time to reflect about it. You're like, well, they're obviously right. And even if I didn't feel like they were right, I still put my faith in them because they were telling me so many good things. They're not trying to fuck my life up.
Right. And I think also there's information you're given in the beginning of your career that you lack the ability to actually comprehend.
Oh yeah, it's all.
And
puzzles.
you have to be in the job for long enough to be able to understand it. Like people, I remember when I was fairly early in tattooing, people would be like, "Oh, you got to blah 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 blah," and then I would be like, "What? Okay, yeah, sure, whatever." And then years later, I'd be like, "Oh, that's the air compressor." I'd be like, "Oh, fuck, that's what the fuck they meant." You know what I mean? I'd be like, "Okay," and it would be years later, dude, and I'd be like, "What an idiot, man!" But
Yeah.
now later on, I realized that I hadn't earned that information yet,
No,
and that there's a time and a place for it.
it was like they were giving you like 3 or 4 pieces, and it was your job to find like the rest of them, so that shit made a sentence. You know what I mean? Like they gave you like 4 letters, and you had to find all the rest of the shit, put it together. When you did, the sentence is there, and then that shit seemed to have like 10 different layers of meaning too. The more you go on,
Right.
sure, you know, it's not like one of those apprenticeships where like they sat around telling me I was wonderful, but I mean, it was like what it should be. I mean, they told me what was good that I was doing, and they told me what was wrong that I was doing. I did my best to not fuck up for them.
Right.
I did my best to like make them happy with what I was doing
Right.
because I respected them, not because I was afraid of them. I really kind of find that slave thing stupid and archaic. I mean, people say you gotta treat them like shit and break them down. I'm like, this isn't the military. They can fucking leave.
Right.
You're gonna get mad when they open up 3 doors down from you.
That's exactly what will happen.
They don't respect you at this point in time, you know.
No, exactly. You're going to create.
But if you put them
resentment.
through something difficult, because it makes sense for them to go through it,
Right. Sure.
and you guide them through that, well then fucking they're gonna respect you because you gave them the tools that, you know, you needed, and they certainly gave me them fucking tools, you know?
Right.
I mean, I hope I grow into the tattooers that they are. And that's it. Like, on a day-to-day basis, I hope I grow into who they've become. Like, when I first started, the tattoos that some of those guys were doing is, in my mind, is still mind-blowing to me. Sometimes when you start seeing tattoos, then you go back like 3 years later and you look at that tattoo and you go, wow, how could I have even liked that stupid piece of shit?
Right.
But these guys, it's not. I mean, I still have tattoos on me from those guys that I look at on a daily basis, and I'm like, thank God that's there, because I wouldn't have been able to draw these fucking wings or this fucking thing without that, because,
Right.
you know what I mean? The tattoos I got from them were teaching me how to do tattoos. You know?
Right. Sure.
Smart ass thing.
Sure. You can learn a lot from getting tattoos, man.
And I think apprentices are weird nowadays. They expect a lot for a little. I see kids like getting apprenticeships and then leaving because it's not worth their time because they're not getting to do seven-eyed tiger heads 3 days in.
Right.
I'm like, dude,
Kanjis, bro.
kanjis are relaxing for me.
Yeah.
I love that shit.
That's where they should be, though.
And I mean, like, hey, I had that period too, where like, you know, you're a couple of years in, you're starting to do clean tattoos, and you get that shithead attitude.
Right.
So I think everybody has like a spot where it's like a year, 6 months to a year, where you get to be a shithead, and if you have enough smart people in your area, they bust it out of you, or you figure it out, you shouldn't be an asshole, or you just become an asshole and that's who you are. You know, if you make that fucking choice, like, I can't be an asshole, this is fucking stupid. Like, I do the best job in the world and get paid for it. Like, how could you possibly do that?
I think one of the common thing that now that makes me totally insane is how people are like, oh, I don't do that stuff. Like, oh, I don't do that. You might want to have it done by blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what the fuck? I would have got boxed, my ears boxed, for doing that. Because I started tattooing when you just did whatever the fuck it was. You didn't get to specialize. Like, I only do fucking whip-shaded chick heads, you know what I mean? Like, that shit ain't real, dude. Like, you do your job because people are asking you to do your job. They're not coming in and being like, hey, man, how about you fucking beat me down emotionally and tell me what a retard I am and I put a tattoo I don't want on me. That's not what they walk in the door and ask you to do.
I've seen people do, like, the tattoos that they're most happy with on people that are totally not happy with.
Right.
And I go home with an ulcer if I think that somebody is so unhappy with the tattoo that I did on them. Like, if I don't feel that they're really happy with what I did, even if I know they are and they're just dazed from being in the chair all day or whatever it is, I'm like, God damn, like, tell me you like it because I need to know that you're happy. Like,
Right.
It's an instinct that I need to make sure that you're okay with it, you know?
Right, sure.
It's a partnership. It's like me, the client, and the tools. They just have to work together.
Right, definitely.
I mean, I'm lucky. I'm not going to say I'm not. I'm fucking lucky because I get to do a lot of my own drawings.
Right.
And that's because the guys that I work with, again, said if you want to do those things at all, it's actually more work, not less work. You don't get to, like, not do these things because you want to do these things. You do what comes in the door if you have the ability to do it. You know, no one's expecting me to do a portrait, you know, at a year and a half in or whatever it is. But if it comes in the door, you do it. If you want to do extra stuff, make some paintings, make some drawings, put it out there. If people want it, come get it. You know what I mean? And at this point in time, enough people are doing that because I paint a lot of flash. I paint like, not a lot. I wish I painted as much as Eric Gillespie does because he paints it.
God damn, that guy's a machine, dude.
One of my favorite tattooers. I mean, just it's so, the work ethic is so admirable, you know? And his flash is awesome.
Yeah.
It's not like he paints a lot and it's garbage. He paints awesome flash.
Yeah.
But I do a set a year. I did like 8 sheets this year. I did 6 sheets the year before. Plus I do a lot of one-offs. Like I probably paint. And then I do like every year I also do a pork chop sheet that's 22 by 30. Yeah, 22 by 30. And that's like usually 40 to 60 designs on there.
Damn, right on.
And and I don't do a lot of repaints of old flash, and it's not because I don't like them, but I want to get better at drawing, like random shit. And so I draw a lot of weird stuff because that's what I like to do. But in reality, it's a disguise for me to draw. I'm gonna figure out how to draw snakes better. I would, you know, draw this fucking. I drew the last one I did had a goddamn little demon sitting on a couch. I just wanted to draw furniture because it's man-made objects. And that shit's hard to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you can do a wobbly-eyed fucking wolf if you want to, but like try to tattoo a car.
Yeah.
Good God, that's like pants-shittingly terrifying.
Yeah.
You know, so I threw some of that in there, some animals that I hadn't really done in a while. So I draw a lot of weird stuff, but people come and get that from me, and I'm lucky. But people still come to me for normal stuff, and there's no way I could possibly ever shit on them.
Right.
I mean, I have guilt in my head about being a new tattooer that came in after TV shows started, because every tattooer that I admire loves to sit around hate on people that are new tattooers, you know what I mean?
Oh, sure.
And like, hey, man.
It doesn't mean that. I mean, I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
I'm definitely one because I'm really doing my best not to become one of those old bitter guys, which I don't think I'm that old, and I don't think I'm that bitter. But it's hard. It's hard to like see this thing that was once one thing and is now lightning has struck and it is abruptly different. It doesn't mean that everybody that's new to tattooing sucks.
No.
Or is that type of
But
person.
that's where I get the guilt from. I identify with that. I'm like, well, I'm part of these guys. Like, how do I change that? You know, like the whole thing with the pie getting smaller and smaller. Well, how do you fix that? How do you try to fix that? When you make more pie.
Right.
You spend your money on tattooing. You spend your money on tattooers. You spend your money on righteous machine builders and ink makers and suppliers.
Right.
You don't shit on your clients.
Right.
No matter who they are, no matter what they want you to do, you don't shit on them.
Right.
If you don't have the ability to do the tattoo you're asking for, suggest somebody that do, make them feel like they're looking out for them.
Right.
But don't shut that revenue stream off. That's fucking everybody.
Yeah.
People don't see that far. They just go like, only doing Eagles today. You know, like only doing, you know, it's like, hey, you know, I'd love to do that kanji. Because I don't have to spend the night drawing for that kanji.
Right.
It's the easiest, like $60 to $80, depending on what your minimum is, that I'm gonna make all day today.
Right.
And a lot of guys are going home washing dishes and not making that night.
And the people are going to be fucking stoked.
Yes,
You're
that's.
sending people away fucking stoked, man.
And that's your clientele. They're gonna come into you for bigger stuff later on. Maybe they want dragons later.
Right.
You know?
They're going to have you put cherry blossoms around the kanji,
Yeah.
and then that's going to turn into something.
And you know what? Some of those guys, I tattooed a lot of military dudes in Savannah. And this was like, my second year in was when I was having my difficulties with it. You know, I wanted to be, and then it's just like, you try to struggle with that. And that was like the dudes that I was working with, they were like, you can't shit on people. It's like, you know, some of the guys that are going to come in asking for all the cool stuff, they're going to be huge headaches. And some of these guys asking for kanji and script, they're awesome people. You're going to have a great time tattooing.
Right.
It goes both ways. Not everybody who comes in looking for fucking anatomical heart with wings on their throat or whatever it is going to be awesome, and not everyone is going to be shitty. You know,
Right.
you treat them well. You do your best to treat them well,
Right.
because they're giving you money to do a job.
Right, for sure.
You are fucking lucky to have to begin with.
Yeah, you got to respect the customer.
Yeah, and it's hard because clients are challenges.
Now how long have you been back in New England?
2.5 years, I think, something like that. I haven't been tattooing that long. Let me preface this by saying, or like in the middle here, I've been tattooing for 5.5-ish years. March will be 6 years.
Right.
So I feel even awkward thinking that I have anything to say. But
Well, in that being said, I really enjoyed the fact that I asked you if you want to do this interview. And you said, really? I've only been tattooing for 5 years. I don't think I've been tattooing long enough to have anything to say. And I was like, I don't care. I said, I don't care. I like your tattoos.
wow.
So,
I mean, if it was going to be anybody, I'd rather it be you.
well, yeah,
You know?
and it has nothing to do with how long, whatever,
I did take a little chance to do this interview with a magazine. I wasn't really happy with how it came out, because the one thing I wanted to talk about was the people that were important to me in tattooing, people that helped me get there. It's the only thing they cut out of the fucking interview.
Of course. That's why this entire thing has
Jerk-off
ever
session.
happened. That's why this video is happening, is because I have had so many failed interviews where people make up things I've said because it sounds better, or
Yeah.
take out the things. And it never really, I think that they never really ever showed what like my personality was, or what I meant, or how I was being funny, and it actually comes off like a fucking cocksucker.
Yeah,
in the
literally
name
comes off
type,
like a
like-
jerk-off interview, or like, just like...
Yeah, totally.
And people love to put whatever personality they want you to have
Right.
into that thing. It's like
Right.
reading it online. You're like,
Exactly,
"This
which
guy
is
sounds like a
why,
dickhead."
which is why I came up with the idea of doing video interviews so you could see people's personalities and all that shit. You mentioned a book that you're doing.
That's
Let's talk about that.
I like making things. I like making tattoos anyway, but I like making things. And I wanted to do something, but I mean, again, like 5.5 years in, my portfolio is on fucking Facebook and Instagram. What am I gonna make people pay for that shit for? Stupid.
Right.
It's an asshole thing to do.
Right.
You know? And who would even want to do that? It's a fucking arrogant ass thing to do. But I wanted to do something. And I always liked, and this is not what I'm trying to do, but I always liked that Higgs did a poetry book because he was a poet.
Right.
What he did. It's
Right.
what else he liked, and he made that work. That was the thing that he did that was not like anything else's, and I liked that. I respected it as that. And so I wanted to write a book about New England. It's like my favorite place on earth. And a huge amount of the things that like I hold real dear, or lessons that I've learned, or weird stories I tell, all happen around that. I mean, I'm from New Bedford, Mass, whaling city, descendant of whalers, and you know, all this cool stuff happened there, and I grew up around it. And I wanted to write about that because, you know, that whole adage, you write what you know. That's what I know. I don't know that much of the shit. My wife is the smart one, I'm the dumb one. But, so it's going to be a collection of, like, stories, like weird little old, like, folklore, and little biographies of people that I thought were pretty impressive through the old history of New England. Not really the recent stuff, but pretty much, like, up until about the turn of the century, 1900s. People, places, events, and things, and old forgotten recipes for food that are like passed down from people's houses and everything. And I'm illustrating it all through Flash. So you can either buy the Flash, or you can buy the book that has the Flash in it with all the stories, or you can buy the secret package later on, which is going to be something that I'm working on, which is going to be a miniature whaler's trunk that has a book and Flash and some other ephemera in it, and it's going to be kind of like each one will be catered towards like some old sailor and their story. So you get like a specific story out of it.
Oh, awesome.
Researched. So it's going to have a little bit of the history of the things that I really study and love.
And you're researching this.
Yeah,
Awesome.
my wife too, she's an archivist and a librarian. So she's helping out loads just by collecting these great old stories when we're looking through things and contacting like archives and libraries and getting me like source materials for
This is
everything.
serious shit, dude.
Yeah. I just figured it'd be fun, you know, like do something that, I don't know, I haven't seen that.
No, it'd be awesome.
I see it like kind of like in like, you know, weird New England, or you know, you go to this, whatever place you're in, you see a little book about that. But I mean, I thought it'd be kind of cool. You know, this is something that I'm into and something that I'm about. So maybe it would be the easiest way to kind of find a little bit more of my voice. And if people are going to pay for it, it's not something that is readily available in tattooing. A lot of people don't really cross the streams like that. You know?
No, I like it. I like that Shotzi Gorman writes poetry. I think that
Awesome.
I like all that shit. I like the people, tattooers that have other things they do. I've always wanted to make furniture my whole life, like forever. I've wanted to make furniture. Not that I ever tell anybody that or I ever do it. You know what I mean? Like I made a chair probably a year ago, and I was really like stoked on it. I finally was like, I'm gonna start making furniture.
That's awesome.
But I think it's awesome when people have things outside of it, and I think it makes you really enjoy the process of tattooing too, because it's not everything about you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that to be a good tattooer, it needs to be in your bone that you are a tattooer.
Yeah.
But also, I think that it's great because when you have an outside influence, that you get to reclaim yourself a little bit. I think in tattooing, you're giving yourself out a lot, and I think people have a hard time controlling that stuff. And I think it's awesome. I think it's bitching when people do stuff like that. They have bands or they have whatever. You
Yeah,
know?
a lot of guys build cars and motorcycles, you know, and
Right.
some guys, like the newer things, is that a lot of people have been kind of dipping into, like, you know, the old crafts that kind of got lost, like sign painting and script and like hand lettering and penmanship and
Right.
leather work and stuff like that. And I
Sure.
think all that stuff is great, you know. It kind of all relates into tattooing somehow as like a handcraft.
Right, which is ironic and ridiculous that the craft of tattooing, a lot of the craft of tattooing has been lost. Nobody knows how to make needles anymore.
I still do.
Yeah,
I did learn that shit.
Not a lot of people. I mean, not many people who have been tattooing 5 years know how to make a needle.
Yeah, I'm not an expert because I haven't had to do it in a while, but they did teach me that shit.
People don't know how to mix
really
pigments. People don't know how to make machines. People, some people know how to paint Flash, but I mean everybody paints Flash now. It's not really like that far out.
Yeah, but does anybody know how to like create a sheet of Flash actually? Just how the old guys did it. Go out and get like current source materials and find some designs that would like speak to a generation.
Right.
Turn that into a sheet of Flash. I mean,
some maybe. I think a lot of people are just regurgitating what's happening. Happened.
I think that's important. Like I think it's really important to learn those things. Like
right. Sure.
every single time I do a Jerry Rose or a Jensen Rose or some shit, like I'm learning every time, and I love that. They're some of my favorite things in the world. But a lot of people are really. I've seen people get naysay about trying to create a new drawing or that's adding to the pot. Just keep putting those images, adding to it's keeping it from being stale. If we all did the same, if we all set our shops up to look the same, we all did the same fucking 17 tattoos. They hate the shit out of each other.
Going the other direction.
I'm just happy to be here. Had a full day of work and I came here and talking to Scott Sylvia. My life is not sucky right now.
Now, do you travel a lot?
That's all I do right now.
You do a lot of conventions
when I came home, when we moved back to New England, the plan was to travel for about a year. I really felt that as much as I learned from the guys at the shop, I was in one place for the majority of it. And I really wanted to kind of, before I got older and we had a kid or something, and,
start to travel.
Hey, fuck it, let's go. I'm getting older anyway, but let's go now. We travel now. Right. And that way I could kind of do that shit. So I do like regular guest spots in places. Once a month, I'm at Three Kings in Brooklyn for about a week and a half or so, week and a half. And I'm there about every single month. I've got a pretty big side clientele in New York now, and that's what I've been doing there. I can pretty much make my bills with just that trip. And then I take appointments when I'm home. In New England at two different shops at Broad Street, Bridgewater, Massachusetts, and Congress Street in New Hampshire, Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
Okay.
And Jason Scott runs Congress Street and Hobos out there. It's a historic shop. It's been there. It's like the oldest shop in Portsmouth. It's been there since I think the early 80s, very early 80s. And it's the same location. He bought it off the guy who owned it, and everybody in the world's visited. And it's a great shop. Portsmouth's a cool old historic town. And he's been nice enough. He's got two shops. One's like the flash shop. You do your walk-ins there. And the other one is pretty much for appointment-only people. Like when their other workers have appointments, they go to the other shop or guests. So there's always a spot open. So he's been nice enough to let me just. I have clients that email me, and I just send them a message saying, "Hey, I have tattoos. Is that cool?" And he said, "Yep." I show up, I do my tattoos, and hang out with the guys and have a great time.
Nice.
Broad Street's almost the same. All their rooms are taken up, so I have to reserve the day ahead of time.
Right.
I have to make sure that I can get that room. And so I have to, like with them, I have to know a little bit sooner ahead of time. And but they're great people. A guy named Joe Staska, who's an older tattooer, he owns Broad Street. He's been real good to me. And the guys that work there, Chris Cotillo and John Moniz and Larry, they're all good guys, and I love being around those guys. And so that's what I do there when I'm home. Other than that, it's conventions and guest spots wherever I can go.
How would people be able to get a hold of you to get tattooed? Do you have
You just email me. Email me. I have
What's your email?
It's rhwellstattoo@gmail.com.
There you go.
Or you can go to my blog, which I try to keep updated. I was letting it go for a little while because fucking Instagram.
Right.
Let's just
The board
let's
got
just
you.
do Instagram now.
The board
But
got you.
It's really hard to put like information on Instagram and have it not just be like, let's scroll right past this fucking letter.
Right. That ain't no titties or.
Yeah. But my blog is you can just search Vaughn Henry Wells, and it's the first thing that comes up. It's the Laughing Hyena at Blogspot, at WordPress, and I try to keep that updated with travel dates and everything. I'm hoping to have a shop in the not so distant future, but there's so many variables. I just want to make sure I'm not stepping on toes, or I'm gonna open up in a place that's gonna be able to make money. To be honest, I take care of family.
Right. Definitely.
So that's that.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing it.
Yeah, thank you.